My name is Jacob Miller, and I'm 46 years old. I grew up on a 500-acre farm in rural Iowa, working alongside my father Thomas and my older brother Daniel since I could walk. Farming was in our blood. 3 generations of Millers had worked this land, turning it from prairie into one of the most productive operations in the county. Daniel was always Dad's favorite. It wasn't even subtle. He was the firstborn, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. He looked like Dad, talked like Dad, thought like Dad. I was different, quieter, more thoughtful, interested in things beyond the farm. Dad saw that as weakness. When I turned 18, I told Dad I wanted to go to agricultural college, learn modern farming techniques, maybe bring new ideas back to the farm. He laughed in my face. We don't need fancy college learning. We need workers. You stay here and work, or you leave. I stayed. For 28 years, I stayed. I worked dawn to dusk, repaired machinery, managed the books, handled negotiations with buyers. Daniel got the glory, driving the new equipment, making decisions, being groomed as Dad's successor. I got the grunt work. Mom understood. Sarah Miller was a gentle soul who'd married into farming, but never quite fit the mold Dad wanted. She saw how he treated me, how Daniel lorded his position over me. She'd comfort me quietly, away from Dad's eyes. Your time will come, Jacob. Just wait. Dad died last March at 72, sudden heart attack in the barn. The will reading was exactly what I expected. Daniel inherited the land, all 500 acres. Daniel got the machinery, tractors, combines, everything worth nearly $2 million. Daniel got the house, the business, the Miller family legacy. I got $5,000 cash and a firm handshake from the lawyer. I sat there in that law office, feeling every bit the disappointment Dad had always considered me. Daniel didn't even look guilty. He just nodded, like this was the natural order of things. "Don't worry, little brother," he said with false magnanimity. "You can stay on as a farmhand. I'll pay you fair wages." Fair wages. After 28 years of backbreaking work, I was offered the privilege of working for my brother as an employee on the land I'd helped build. I walked out without responding. Mom followed me to the parking lot, her face creased with worry. She was 70 now, living in the small cottage on the property that Dad had built for his parents years ago. Under the will, she could stay there as long as she lived. "Jacob, wait," she called. "There's something else." I stopped, my hand on the truck door. "Mom, if you're going to tell me Dad loved me in his own way, please don't. I can't hear that right now." "No." She came closer, holding something. A worn metal toolbox, maybe 2 feet long, dented and covered in old paint stains. I recognized it immediately. It had belonged to my grandfather, William Miller, who died when I was 10. "Your grandfather wanted you to have this," Mom said quietly. "He told me before he passed. Said when the time was right, when you were ready, to give it to you. It's a toolbox, Mom. I have tools. It's more than that." Her eyes held something I couldn't quite read. "Your grandfather knew things. He understood people. He left this for you specifically, Jacob. Open it when you're ready. Not now, not in anger. When you're ready to truly see." I took the toolbox, heavy and solid in my hands. "What's that supposed to mean?" "You'll know." She kissed my cheek. "Trust me, son. You'll know." I drove to my small rental house in town. I'd moved out years ago to have some independence, and set the toolbox on my kitchen table. For hours, I just stared at it while drinking beer and nursing my wounded pride. Everything I'd given to that farm, every sacrifice, every dawn rising, every missed opportunity, all of it rendered worthless by a will that confirmed what I'd always known. I wasn't good enough. I'd never been good enough. Around midnight, angry and drunk enough to not care, I opened the toolbox. The top tray held normal things: old wrenches, screwdrivers, a hammer with a worn wooden handle, Grandpa's actual tools. I lifted the tray out. Beneath it, the main compartment held something unexpected: documents, lots of them. I pulled out the first folder, opened it, and felt my breath catch. It was a deed, property deed for 80 acres adjacent to our family farm, and it was in my grandfather's name. dated 1965. I rifled through more documents, bank statements showing an account I'd never heard of, letters between Grandpa and various people, and a sealed envelope with my name on it in Grandpa's handwriting, for Jacob William Miller. Open when you understand what you're worth. My middle name was William, after him. I'd always felt a connection to Grandpa that I never had with Dad. He died too soon, but I remembered him as kind, thoughtful, someone who actually listened when I talked. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, dated just a week before Grandpa's death. "Dear Jacob," it began. "If you're reading this, then you're probably around 40 or 50 years old, and my son Thomas has likely passed. I'm sorry for that. He's my son and I love him, but I know his faults. I know how he sees you versus Daniel, and I know it's wrong." I read Grandpa's letter 3 times that night, each word hitting me like a revelation. He wrote about watching me as a child, seeing qualities in me that reminded him of himself: curiosity, thoughtfulness, a mind that looked beyond just the next harvest. "Your father is a good farmer but a hard man," the letter continued. "He sees strength only in one form, his own. He can't understand that there are different kinds of strength, different ways to build a legacy. Daniel is like Thomas, and that's fine. But you, Jacob, you're like me. And I want you to have what I built separately from the farm. The 80 acres, Grandpa explained. He'd purchased in 1965 with money he'd saved from a side business repairing machinery for other farms. Dad never knew about it. Grandpa had kept it separate, paying taxes through a trust, waiting for the right time. By the time you read this, that land has probably appreciated considerably, the letter said. I've also maintained an investment account for you. The details are in the documents. This is yours, Jacob. Not charity, not sympathy. It's what you deserve, what you've always deserved. The final paragraph made me cry. Don't be angry at your father. He loved you in the only way he knew how. But don't waste your life trying to earn approval from someone who couldn't give it. Build your own legacy. Make me proud. I know you will. I spent the next week going through every document in that toolbox. The 80 acres were indeed still in a trust with me as the beneficiary, prime farmland currently leased to a neighboring farm, generating rental income that had been accumulating in the investment account. That account now held over $400,000. Grandpa had given me the foundation for independence, hidden in a toolbox for 36 years, waiting for the moment I'd need it most. The next morning, still processing everything, I drove out to see Mom. She was in her garden, tending tomatoes despite the early spring chill. When she saw my face, she smiled knowingly. You opened it. You knew what was in there? Some of it. Your grandfather told me about the land and the account. He made me promise to give you the toolbox only when Thomas passed, only when you truly understand its value. She stood, wiping dirt from her hands. Your father was a good man in many ways, Jacob. But he wasn't capable of seeing past his own limited view of the world. Your grandfather knew that about his son. Why didn't Grandpa just give me this while he was alive? Or tell Dad? Mom sighed, sitting on her garden bench. She gestured for me to join her. Because your father would have tried to take it, to fold it into the family farm. He would have seen it as his inheritance, not yours. William knew his son well enough to protect you from that. Did Dad know Grandpa bought land separately? No, William kept it quiet. He'd learned early on that Thomas had very specific ideas about how things should be, and fighting him head-on never worked. So he worked around him, quietly building something for you. I thought about that. Grandpa loving his son enough to not fight him openly, but loving me enough to secure my future anyway. The complexity of family loyalty played out across decades. Daniel doesn't know either, Mum continued. The land is under a trust name, not Miller. The rental income goes to an account your father never knew existed. It's yours, Jacob, completely yours. What do I do with it? Mom took my hand. Whatever you want, that's the point. You're not tied to the farm anymore. You're not beholden to Daniel's charity. You have options, choices, freedom. I took 2 weeks to think, to plan, to envision a future I'd never allowed myself to imagine. The 80 acres Grandpa left me were beautiful, Rolling land with good soil, a small creek running through one corner, already cleared and productive from years of being leased out. I could farm it myself. 80 acres was manageable for one person with the right equipment. I had $400,000 to invest in machinery, buildings, operations. It wouldn't be the massive operation Dad and now Daniel ran, but it would be mine, or I could sell it. Prime Iowa farmland was worth $12,000 to $15,000 an acre. I could walk away with over $1 million, start completely fresh somewhere else, leave farming behind entirely. For the first time in my life, I had real choices. I met with a financial advisor, a lawyer, and an agricultural consultant. We ran numbers, explored options, discussed possibilities. The consultant, a sharp woman named Rebecca Martinez, was particularly enthusiastic about what she called progressive farming. You don't need 500 acres to be successful anymore, she explained, spreading out reports and data. Specialty crops, organic certification, direct-to-consumer sales, agritourism. There are farmers making excellent livings on 50 acres with the right approach. My father would have called that nonsense, I said. Your father farmed in a different era. The market has changed. Consumers want to know where their food comes from. They'll pay premium prices for quality, for story, for connection to the land. She leaned forward. You have 80 acres and capital to invest. You could build something really special, Jacob, something completely different from the traditional model. The idea excited me in a way traditional farming never had. Not just growing corn and soybeans in massive quantities, but creating something with purpose, with connection, with meaning. I started making plans. Daniel called me a month after the will reading. I hadn't spoken to him since walking out of the lawyer's office, hadn't responded to his texts offering me employment on what was now his farm. Jake, we need to talk, he said. You can't just disappear. The farm needs you. I need your help with the spring planting. I'm busy with my own projects, I replied calmly. Your own projects? Come on. You're being childish about the inheritance. Dad made his decision and it was the right one. I'm the oldest. I've been running things for years, but that doesn't mean I don't value you. Come back to work. I'll even give you a raise. $20 an hour. $20 an hour. For skilled farm labor and management experience. I almost laughed. No thanks, Daniel. I'm good. Jake, be realistic. What else are you going to do? You're a farmer. It's all you know. Swallow your pride and come back. That's when I told him. I'm starting my own operation. 80 acres on the east side, just past Henderson's property. Grandpa left it to me. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? Grandpa didn't own other land. He did. Bought it in 1965, kept it separate. It's mine now, free and clear. I'm going to farm it my way. More silence. I could practically hear Daniel's mind working, trying to figure out if I was lying, how Grandpa could have hidden this, what it meant for him. 80 acres is nothing, he finally said, his voice tight. You'll fail within a year. You don't have equipment. You don't have experience running your own operation. I have capital, I have plans, and I have freedom. That's more than enough. I paused. Good luck with your spring planting, Daniel. I'm sure you'll figure it out. I hung up, feeling lighter than I had in years. The transformation of those 80 acres became my obsession. I poured everything into it, not just Grandpa's money, but my heart, my vision, my identity. This was my chance to prove I was more than the spare son, more than Dad's disappointment. I hired Rebecca as a consultant. Together we designed a diversified operation focused on premium products, 20 acres of organic vegetables for farmers' markets and restaurant sales. 20 acres of heirloom grains, small batches milled on site, 15 acres of berry crops, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, 10 acres kept natural as meadow and pollinator habitat, the remaining 15 acres for a small event barn, farm store, and processing facilities. You're creating an agricultural ecosystem, Rebecca said approvingly as we walked the land. Each component supports the others. The pollinator habitat helps the berries and vegetables. The grain mill gives you value-added products. The farm store and events create direct customer relationships. This is next-generation farming. Mom visited often, bringing lemonade and encouragement. "Your grandfather would be so proud," she'd say, watching the construction progress. "This is exactly what he hoped you'd do." I purchased used but quality equipment, a smaller tractor, cultivation tools, irrigation systems. Nothing flashy like Daniel's massive new combine, but practical and paid for in cash, no debt. That was important to me. Word spread through the farming community. Most of the old-timers thought I was crazy. "Specialty farming is a fad," they'd say. "Real farming is corn and beans at scale." Some of them said it to my face. Others I heard about secondhand. Daniel was the loudest critic. He told anyone who'd listen that I was wasting Grandpa's legacy, that I'd be broke within 2 years, that I didn't understand real agriculture. I didn't argue. I just worked. The first growing season was brutal. I'd forgotten how hard physical labor was when you're doing everything yourself, with limited help. I hired 2 full-time employees, both young people interested in sustainable agriculture, willing to work hard for decent wages and profit sharing. Maria was fresh out of agricultural college, with ideas about soil health that sounded radical but proved effective. Tom was a local kid who'd grown up farming but wanted something different from the industrial model his family practiced. Together, we planted, tended, harvested. We made mistakes, planted too densely in some areas, not enough in others, lost a batch of berries to unexpected frost. But we learned fast, adapted constantly. The organic vegetables were our first success. I established relationships with 3 farm-to-table restaurants in Des Moines, an hour's drive away. They paid premium prices for produce picked that morning, varieties you couldn't get from industrial suppliers. The farmers' markets were harder. Standing there selling carrots and tomatoes while people walked past felt humbling at first. But I learned to tell our story, about Grandpa's gift, about sustainable practices, about knowing exactly where your food comes from. People responded to authenticity. By midsummer, we had regular customers who came specifically for our vegetables. They'd bring friends, tell others. Word of mouth became our best marketing. The heirloom grains took longer. They wouldn't harvest until fall. But I'd already secured interest from artisan bakers willing to pay well for locally grown, stone-ground flour from heritage wheat varieties. Daniel drove past a few times, always slowing down to look, but never stopping. I'd wave. He wouldn't wave back. Mum reported that he was struggling. The farm was too big for one person to manage, and he was too proud to hire competent help. He'd hired cheap labor that didn't care about quality. Equipment kept breaking down because he pushed it too hard, trying to cover all 500 acres alone. He could ask for your help, Mum said, but his pride won't let him. I felt a twinge of something. Not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. The real turning point came in October. We held our first harvest festival on the farm, an event Rebecca had insisted would build community connections. I was skeptical about turning my serious agricultural operation into a tourist attraction, but I trusted her expertise. We offered tours of the operation, explanations of our growing methods, samples of our products. The farm store sold vegetables, our fresh milled flour, berry preserves we'd made, and honey from the hives we'd installed near the pollinator meadow. Over 300 people came that first weekend. Families with children, young professionals interested in local food, retirees looking for quality produce. They walked through the fields, asked intelligent questions, and bought enthusiastically. One older gentleman spent an hour talking with me about heirloom wheat varieties. He turned out to be a retired agricultural professor from Iowa State. "What you're doing here is important," he told me. "This is the future of sustainable agriculture. Small scale, diversified, connected to community. The industrial model isn't sustainable long term. We sold out of almost everything. The following week, local newspapers ran stories about the event. A food blogger with a large following visited and wrote a glowing review. Restaurant inquiries tripled. The second year, we expanded the berry operation and added a small greenhouse for winter greens. Revenue increased 40%. We hired 2 more employees. I gave everyone raises and established a real profit-sharing system. Third year, we added agritourism, farm stays in the renovated barn, cooking classes using our produce, school field trips teaching children about farming. The event barn hosted weddings and corporate retreats. Every component generated income while supporting the agricultural mission. By the fourth year, Miller Heritage Farm, I'd named it after Grandpa, was profitable, sustainable, and growing. We grossed over $500,000 annually with healthy margins. Not as much as Daniel's operation in pure revenue, but our profit per acre was actually higher because we focused on value, not volume. Daniel showed up on a cold November afternoon during the fourth year. I was in the barn, processing our final wheat harvest of the season with Tom, when I heard his truck pull up. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. He looked tired, older than his 50 years, worn down by stress. His truck was muddy, showing signs of hard use and deferred maintenance. He walked into the barn slowly, looking around at our efficient setup with something between curiosity and envy. "Jacob," he said simply. "Daniel." Awkward silence. Tom quietly excused himself, sensing this was a private conversation. "The farm looks good," Daniel finally said. "Really good. I've been hearing things about what you're doing here." "Yeah? Restaurants buying from you. Articles in food magazines. That harvest festival, I heard it's become a big deal." He kicked at the floor. "I never thought you'd make it work. 80 acres, specialty crops. I thought you were crazy." "I know. I was wrong." The words came out hard, like they hurt. "You built something here, Jake. Something real. Something Dad never understood was possible." I waited. There was more coming. "I'm struggling," he admitted, the words barely audible. "The farm is too big. Margins keep shrinking on commodity crops. Equipment keeps breaking down, and I can't afford to replace it. I took out loans to buy new machinery when Dad died, thinking bigger and newer was the answer. But prices are down. Costs are up. I'm drowning in debt." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" He looked at me sharply. "After how we treated you, after Dad left you nothing and I offered you shit wages, you have a right to enjoy watching me fail." I thought about that. Did I enjoy it? A year ago, maybe. But now, standing in my successful barn, looking at my brother's broken expression, I felt mostly sad. "I don't want you to fail, Daniel," I said honestly. "You're my brother, but I'm not going to pretend the past didn't hurt. It did, deeply." Daniel nodded, leaning against a support post. "I know. I was Dad's golden boy. I took it for granted, took you for granted, never questioned whether it was fair, whether you deserved more recognition." He paused. "Mom told me about Grandpa's letter, about what he wrote, why he left you the land. Mom shouldn't have. She was right to tell me. I needed to hear it." Daniel looked at me directly for the first time. "Grandpa saw something in you that Dad and I couldn't see. He knew you had potential beyond just being a farmhand, and he was right. What do you want, Daniel?" "Honestly, I don't know. I came here to apologize, I guess, for how I treated you, for the condescension, the assumption that I was better, the offer to let you work for me like you should be grateful." He laughed bitterly. "You're more successful than I am now. How's that for irony?" I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to gloat, to throw his past words back at him. But Grandpa's letter echoed in my mind. Don't waste your life trying to earn approval from someone who couldn't give it. I'd already won. I'd built my own legacy, proven my worth, not to Dad, not to Daniel, but to myself. Nursing old resentments wouldn't make that sweeter. "I accept your apology," I said, "and I appreciate you coming here to say it." That took courage. Daniel's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you. But I can't fix your problems. The farm is yours now. You wanted it, you got it. What you do with it is your responsibility. I know I'm not asking for a bailout." He straightened up. "But I was thinking, maybe we could talk sometimes. About farming, about techniques. You've learned things I haven't. Maybe I could learn from you." Over the following months, Daniel and I developed a careful, new relationship. Not the closeness we might have had if our childhood had been different, but something functional and respectful. He'd visit occasionally, usually late afternoon, and we'd walk the farm while I explained my methods. "It's so different from what Dad taught us," he'd say, watching Maria test soil composition in the vegetable field. "Different doesn't mean wrong. Dad's way worked for his time, but times change." Daniel started implementing some changes on his operation, reducing his total acreage under cultivation, focusing on quality over quantity in certain sections, diversifying beyond just corn and soybeans. It helped, but he was still burdened by debt and years of deferred maintenance. The real crisis came in year 5. Daniel's main tractor, a massive piece of equipment essential for his operation, broke down catastrophically during spring planting. The repair cost was $200,000. He didn't have it. He called me, his voice defeated. "I'm done, Jake. The bank won't extend more credit. I can't plant without that tractor, can't harvest even if I could plant. I'm going to have to sell the farm." "Sell to who?" "Agricorp made an offer last year. I turned it down then, but they're still interested. They want to consolidate with neighboring properties, create a massive industrial operation. They'll pay market value for the land and equipment." Agricorp, a faceless corporation that would strip mine the soil, push out remaining family farms, turn our family's 3-generation legacy into just another industrial ag parcel. "Don't," I heard myself say. "Don't sell to them." "Then what?" "I'm out of options." I thought fast. "Sell to me 50 acres of your land, the section bordering my property. That'll give you capital to fix the tractor and keep operating the rest." "Jake, you don't have that kind of money." "Yes, I do. I've been banking profits for 4 years, and I can get financing for the rest." The deal took 3 months to finalize. I purchased 50 acres from Daniel for fair market value, $600,000. It stretched my finances considerably, but my accountant confirmed it was manageable given our steady revenue growth. Those 50 acres gave Daniel the breathing room he needed. He fixed his equipment, paid down some debt, and continued operating a smaller but more sustainable 350 acres, still significant but manageable. For me, it expanded Miller Heritage Farm to 130 acres, enough to really scale our specialty operations while maintaining quality. We added more berries, expanded the heirloom grain program, and increased our event hosting capacity. Mom was thrilled with how things had worked out. "You helped your brother," she said, "but on your own terms, from a position of strength. Your grandfather would love that." "I did it for the family legacy as much as for Daniel," I admitted. "I didn't want to see Agricorp get their hands on Miller land." "That's fair, but you also showed mercy when you could have let him fail. That says something about who you are." Year 6 brought unexpected recognition. A national, sustainable farming organization named Miller Heritage Farm as one of the top 10 innovative small farms in the country. We got featured in magazines, on farming podcasts, even a brief segment on a PBS documentary about the future of agriculture. The attention brought more customers, more opportunities. We partnered with agricultural colleges to host internships. We started consulting with other farmers interested in transitioning to diversified operations. Revenue crossed $1 million. I was 48 years old, running a successful farm that bore my grandfather's legacy while charting its own path. Every morning I'd walk the land and feel grateful for Grandpa's foresight, for Mum's faith, for my own perseverance. The old toolbox sat in my farm office now, empty of documents but full of meaning. Sometimes I'd open it just to remember that moment of discovery when everything changed. 2 years ago, Mum got sick. Cancer, aggressive and fast-moving. She was 78, and the doctors weren't optimistic about treatment. She chose comfort care instead, moving into hospice at the cottage where she'd lived since Dad died. Daniel and I took turns staying with her. Our renewed relationship made this time easier than it might have been. We could coordinate care, share the emotional burden, actually support each other. One afternoon, with both of us there, Mum asked us to come close. Her voice was weak, but her mind was sharp as ever. "I need to tell you something," she said, "about your grandfather's land, about the toolbox." Mom, you should rest. Hush, Jacob. Let me talk. She gathered strength. The land wasn't just William's idea, it was mine too. Daniel and I exchanged glances. What do you mean? I asked. Your grandfather bought that land, yes, but I'm the one who convinced him to do it. I saw how Thomas treated you, Jacob. Saw it from the time you were small. I knew how the inheritance would go, knew Daniel would get everything. She looked at Daniel. No offense, sweetheart. None taken, Daniel said quietly. So I talked to William, told him we needed to do something to give Jacob a foundation. William agreed. He'd seen it too, how his son had favorites, so together we planned. The land purchase, the trust, the timing, all of it. I felt tears forming. You did this for me? I did what a mother should do, protect her child. But I couldn't fight Thomas directly. He would have shut me down, accused me of undermining him. So I worked around him with William's help. She smiled weakly. We made a good team, your grandfather and I. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because it wasn't time. You needed to discover it when you'd truly appreciate it, when you'd understand its value. Mom died 3 weeks later, peacefully in her sleep with both her sons beside her. We buried her next to Dad in the family cemetery on the original farm property. Daniel and I stood there after the funeral, looking at the graves of our parents and grandparents, 4 generations of millers resting in Iowa soil. Do you think Dad ever realized how wrong he was? Daniel asked. About you, about what makes someone valuable. I don't think he was capable of that kind of reflection, I answered honestly. He saw the world one way, and that was that. Yeah, Daniel sighed. I'm trying not to be like him, with my own kids, with my thinking. It's hard though, those patterns run deep. The fact that you're trying matters. We stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Daniel said something that surprised me. I'm proud of you, Jake, of what you built. I should have said that years ago. Thanks, Daniel. That means something. I know things between us will never be what they could have been if we'd grown up differently. But I'm glad we found our way to something real. Me too. After Daniel left, I stayed at the cemetery alone for a bit, talking to the people who'd shaped my life. Thanks, Grandpa, I said to William's headstone, for seeing something in me worth investing in, for planning ahead, for believing I could do something meaningful. And Mom, I turned to Sarah's fresh grave. Thank you for fighting for me in the only way you could, for being patient, for trusting the timing. Even to Dad's grave, I found words. I wish you could have seen what I built, wish you could have understood that there are different ways to be strong, different definitions of success. But I made peace with you, not understanding. I found my own path anyway. As I walked back to my truck, I passed the old toolbox I'd brought to put on Grandpa's grave, a symbolic return of the gift. But at the last moment, I decided to keep it. Today, Miller Heritage Farm spans 130 acres of the most productive and diverse agricultural land in the county. We employ 8 full-time staff and a dozen seasonal workers. Our farm store is a destination. Our events are booked a year in advance, and our products are in 50 restaurants across Iowa and neighboring states. But more than the business success, I'm proud of what we represent. We've proven that you don't need massive scale to succeed in modern agriculture. We've shown that sustainability and profitability can coexist. We've demonstrated that farming can be about connection, to land, to community, to purpose, not just production. I'm 50 years old now. My hair is graying, my back aches more than it used to, but I wake up every morning excited about the work. That's something I never felt in all those years working on Dad's farm. Daniel is doing okay. His operation is smaller but stable. We collaborate sometimes. He'll grow commodity crops on contract for us when we need bulk grain, or we'll process and market specialty products for him. It works because we respect each other's strengths now. I never married, never had children. The farm became my family, my legacy. Sometimes I wonder what will happen to it when I'm gone. Maybe I'll establish a trust like Grandpa did, ensure it continues serving the community and training new farmers in sustainable methods. The old toolbox sits on a shelf in my office, cleaned and polished. Sometimes visiting school groups ask about it, and I tell them the story. About a grandfather who saw potential in a grandson, about a gift given across decades, about how sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't land or money, but belief in someone's worth. Last month, a young farmer came to me for advice. She was struggling with family pressure to farm conventionally, but she wanted to try organic, sustainable methods. Her father thought she was crazy. I took her out to the fields, showed her our operation, shared our numbers. My own father thought I was wasting my potential, I told her, but someone believed in me when I needed it most. Now, I'm passing that forward. I gave her a tour of everything, the vegetable plots where Maria was teaching 2 interns about companion planting, the grain mill where Tom was experimenting with a new heritage wheat variety, the berry fields where our pollinator meadow had created such a healthy ecosystem that neighboring farms were starting to copy the model. "This is incredible," she kept saying. "I had no idea small scale could be this successful. Successful in different ways than the industrial model measures," I explained. "We don't have the highest gross revenue in the county, but we have the highest profit margins per acre, the lowest debt, the happiest employees, and the most satisfied customers. Those things matter more than sheer volume." Before she left, I did something unexpected. I went to my office and took down the old toolbox. "This belonged to my grandfather," I told her. "It represents the gift he gave me, not just land and money, but belief that I could build something meaningful my own way." I opened it, showed her the empty interior where those life-changing documents once sat. The physical things he left me started this farm, but the real gift was permission to be different, to define success on my own terms. I closed the toolbox and handed it to her. "I want you to have this. I can't take your grandfather's toolbox. Yes, you can. Because the gift needs to keep moving forward. Someday, when you've built something amazing, pass it on to someone else who needs permission to be different. Keep the cycle going." She left with tears in her eyes, carrying that old metal toolbox like the treasure it was. Walking back through the farm that evening, I thought about legacy, how it's not just what we leave behind, but how we empower others to build their own paths. Grandpa understood that. Mum understood it. And now, finally, so did I.